Hello and welcome to the third and the Dawn Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always, to talk about NFL football. We have 4 weeks in the books. We're going to recap Week 4, preview Week 5. First of all, Cecil, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Another week in the books. A great week 4. Again, we're getting that, I guess, quarter point of the NFL season where, every time this time of year, it seems to feel like I know less about the NFL than I did a week ago, which is great. The thing I love about this league is that each and every week, teams seem to be dead in the water and then come back out of nowhere to win and have the makings of a pretty good team. I think there are 15 teams in the league right now, too. So, yeah, there's a lot going on in the league right now. It's interesting. There's a lot of parity, and I mean, I love it.
I do as well, and this was one of the first weekends of all time that Vegas lost money on a weekend from gamblers. So that's really cool. Kudos to everyone out there gambling smart. But let's get into it, Cease. Let's just go right to it. Thursday Night Football, we had the Bengals whiteout games, the sickest uniforms of all time, the sickest uniform game of all time, too, with the Dolphins Aqua. This game was needed a comeback from the Bengals, but they were able to do it. The main story from the game, though, is that Tua Tagovailoa goes down with a concussion, and now there's a whole scandal with NFL and head injuries. I'm under the impression that everyone thinks they actually care about head injuries, but we do not care about head injuries because Tua played, and it's the whole thing. For the Bengals, though, I think it's a really good win because obviously they had to come back in this one. This was not the easiest game for them to play, and they stayed with it. They got the win, and now they're 2-2 and at the top of the division.
Right. I mean, it's a huge win from the Bengals' point of view. Huge win. Defense has continued to come in as average. They've looked great all season long. Honestly, right now, strength of the team. Even, they had lost DJ Reader to IR, so he'll be out for a good amount of the season at this point. There's no real timetable for his return by any means, but I mean, they played elite ball. Obviously, Tua got hurt. That is unfortunate. So, it's one of those things where you never want to see anyone get hurt. I also didn't want to see him get hurt because I wanted to see what the Bengals could do against Tua for a full 4 quarters. But, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater was getting the ball out, too. I mean, he's not like an absolutely terrible quarterback. He started in this league multiple years. So, I mean, it was good to see the Bengals defense step up when they need to, especially in the fourth quarter. The offense continues to, have timely plays, get in. It was a very up and down offense. The running game after the first just completely disappeared. So, I mean, the offense is still a work in progress right now. Will continue to get better, just from what we saw with timing and things like that so far. So, on the Bengals side, great. You're back at 2-2. Every other team this week, if you're in the AFC North, so they're right in the thick of it, and they get to play Baltimore. So it's huge. The Dolphins, you lose Tua at that point. It's hard to think about much else. You've got Tyreek Hill, still got the ball a lot of time, 150 yards. But outside of that, I mean, really not that much happened. It was more get the ball to Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Jalen Waddle had a big play, that got them to score that touchdown. But other than, it didn't look good, and rightfully so, without their starting quarterback. And, the defense was just giving up way too many deep passes to T. Higgins. So a lot of people, including me, said, the Dolphins are good, but I don't think they're amazing. Like I said, they were outgained the 2 games prior to that by Baltimore and Buffalo. They managed to win the game with very timely touchdowns. And they almost did the same thing in this game again, but luckily the Bengals were able to battle back. When it comes to Tua's injury, we all know in the NFL, they care about player safety to a certain extent, and it's gotten better through the years, especially in the last decade or so. But at the end of the day, they messed up. Everybody messed up, from the independent neurologist to the team doctor to the head coach. Everybody should have just gone at the end of last week when they called it a back injury. It didn't look like a back injury. It looked like his head bounced on the ground and then he almost fell down directly after. That looks like a concussion. And then they basically were not sure if he was going to play. He wasn't really showing up for warm-ups. And I understand players want to play. You can play. Playing hurt is a big thing in the NFL because you don't want to get replaced. You want to play for the team, and you want to get the win because it's hard to win in the NFL. But at the same time, you got to be there to say, hey, this is not just like some pain, because everybody in the NFL season after a couple weeks, especially through a long season, some kind of ailment or another. No one really feels healthy. The amount of punishment these guys take on their bodies for 17, 18 weeks is unbelievable. But a head injury is just something that you can't. It's something, honestly, we know so little about. I mean, CTE is still a very new thing that's come to the forefront. And it's something that it continues to need to be researched more. And I mean, I just hope Tua is okay. This doesn't really mess with his career. We don't really know the full extent to that by any means. And more importantly, we don't know the extent where if he gets another concussion or something, close to that level of impact, if that'll affect him more long term as well. So, I mean, scary situation. I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad, he has all of his motor functions. He doesn't seem to have any really overlasting effects. But player safety, I mean, there's only so much they can do on the field itself. With Tua, the situation there is, people just got to step in and go. I mean, he just doesn't look right. Even if we're not sure, we just you gotta sit down for your own safety, like, and for your own health. It's just that simple. An eye test of just going, this isn't worth your career. This football game isn't. But and this is the big thing we talk about. This is a huge business. The NFL is huge. Each individual player is huge. I mean, now especially with how popular gambling, sports gambling, fantasy football, these things are. A lot of times you take the human element out when you sit there and you look at your phone and you see that somebody's got hurt. You're not really thinking as much about their health a lot of times. Unfortunately, the reality is you want these guys to play because you want your team to win, or you want your fantasy team to get points and that thing. And I think this situation really brings to the forefront that these people are risking their lives. It's a very dangerous sport. It's not, it's more dangerous than pretty much every other big professional sport in America. Hockey get CTE as well, but I mean the NFL is just it's such a high level of risk compared to baseball, basketball, all these guys, and they've been fighting just to make more and more money. I mean, at least now we're living in a world where these guys do get paid a good amount of money. I don't know, obviously, get a degenerative brain disease, how much money that is worth. But player safety is much more important than it was in the 70s, where these guys got paid barely anything, and they're finding effects of this stuff. So that's a whole topic we could talk about forever. The answer is people should have handled a situation a lot better. Hindsight obviously is very important there, but really probably shouldn't have been playing. Shouldn't have pretty much gone back into the Bills. Definitely, after seeming to have some lasting effects of what is a concussion, probably should have been playing on such a short week in Cincinnati. And I'm just hoping it doesn't lay to any long-term effects for him or his career.
Yeah, I hope so as well. We will see how he does in the coming weeks. He is not playing this week, thank God. And as you said, for the Bengals, they got the Ravens coming up. We'll pick that game up later. All right, the Sunday games. We start off with London. The last time Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton played in London, they tied, which is fitting for both those quarterbacks. This game, the Vikings got the win 28-25. They go score in the last couple seconds, but the Saints get down there. Andy Dalton throws a long pass to Chris Olave over the middle. They spike it. They get a chance for Will Lutz to go tie up the game and send it to overtime. And a double doink happens, and the Saints lose because of it. The Vikings get the win. I think two teams that are decently evenly matched, but the Vikings just had more going for them in this game because the Saints had Jameis Winston out, Alvin Kamara out, Michael Thomas out. So good for everyone else to battle tough, but the Vikings were the better team in the end.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the Saints roster and injury report, it was a who's who of offensive star power. So, I mean, it's hard to win any game, much less fly, across the pond to England and play on a Sunday morning. You're having to get your body adjusted, practices over there, just a completely different feel. I mean, half the time you're on offense, your own people who are quote unquote cheering for you are cheering because they just don't really understand you to be quiet for offense. So, I mean, it's always something with those, the games in London. There's always questions about who's going to win, which team actually took the proper like sports science medical way to acclimate your body in such a short time to a completely different time zone, half a day away. But ultimately, team won. It was a lot closer than it probably would have been, I think, if it was in the States, whether it was in New Orleans or it was in Minnesota. But like I said, Minnesota ball, Kirk Cousins had some good plays, not so great plays. He didn't have a great game by any means, but Justin Jefferson continued to dominate. Dalvin Cook had a decent game, and I mean their offense continued to roll in a good spot.
Absolutely, they get the win. That'll be important as they're now 3-1. The Saints need to get back on track if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. Next game up was 1 p.m. game. The Cowboys beat the Commanders 25-10. The Cowboys defense is for real, Cease. That's what I got from this game. Cooper Rush is playing fine football. He's not better than Dak Prescott, but the Cowboys defense is playing really good, and the Commanders are just a bad team. They're mismanaged. Ron Rivera is making terrible quotes to the media. He's going to be fired here soon. So a result that, with the injuries to Dak, maybe we didn't expect maybe a couple weeks ago, but how things are going with that Cowboys defense and the Washington team just not being with it, I think now we do expect that type of result.
Right, and like you said, this Cowboys defense is no joke, and Cooper Rush has the offense playing some pretty complimentary ball on that side. I mean, yeah, we thought after the Tampa Bay game, they were going to be dead in the water. Cooper Rush has played one game. He hasn't looked anything very spectacular. It's been a joke on Cowboys Twitter for years now. Cooper Rush is the better quarterback than Dak. I'm not saying that by any means, but, what I'm worried about most here, because Dak is trying to get back, I think, to try to play this week or next week. I don't know if that's good for his overall health because, we were talking a 6 to 8 week recovery time. This is week 5. I think he's worried he's going to get replaced, which is always a thing in the NFL. The more Cooper Rush continues to win, there's going to be questions of if Dak Prescott is really that much better to really throw off what they have going on as a team. Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of times teams are humming along where even if the quarterback's not the greatest, they put in a newer rookie or somebody, even though it may not be the best for the team. They just feel like that person might get them over the hump better, take them to another level. A lot of times it does the opposite and causes them to lose all the momentum mid-game. Let's start to rush the rest of the season yet. There's still a lot to happen. The Cowboys defense, like I said, is dominated. Cooper Rush really hasn't had to do anything that spectacular to get the Cowboys these wins. But, I mean, it's great for them. And then the Commanders, I mean, Carson Wentz, looked good for a game and a half. And then from there, he's looked back to Carson Wentz of old, where he's just throwing interception after interception. And basically this game was over in like the first quarter. And we had to watch it on network television for the entire Sunday 1 o'clock slot. So not appreciative of that. Thanks, Fox. But, yeah, overall, not a great game. And we'll see what the Cowboys do because they might have a quarterback dilemma on their hands soon.
Oh, boy, you're calling it out. All right. The Cowboys, as you said, the Rams coming up. That'll be a game we pick here later. But 3-1, got to feel good about that. And as I mentioned, the Commanders are going to be having some tough decisions to make in terms of their future with Ron Rivera, I think, coming in the next couple of weeks here maybe. Next game up, we have the Falcons beating the Browns 23-20. They started off the game hot, and then they came back in the fourth quarter, were able to win the game with a comeback. The Falcons are a team that we did not expect to be good. They're kind of in rebuild mode, but they're feisty, man. They play tough. And the Browns, their offense is pretty good overall, but Jacoby Brissett is not going to be the answer for them. They can't wait until Deshaun Watson gets back. And I think this is a team that needs to get refocused because their whole season can be washed away by the time Deshaun Watson does get back in Week 13.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that they've lost 2 games to 2 of the more winnable teams on their schedule. Because, you don't want to lose the cupcake games, as they call them. I mean, there's no such thing as a cupcake game in the NFL, but there's teams that are a lot easier to beat. You look at the schedule and go, yeah, I mean, we should win these games. You start dropping those. That's where you start having a season that's, you're 6 and, 6-11, 7-10, and you're missing the playoffs. And you could have flipped those 2 games and gone, now we're 9-8, and we're in a wild card spot. And you're going to lose games against elite talent. You play the Chiefs, you play the Bills. You may win a couple of those games. You're not going to win them all, especially with what's going on with the Browns limitations they currently have. So watching this slip out of their hands, especially after the loss to the Joe, wasn't the exact same, but it had echoes of it. Things go, Browns can't really catch a break right now. Myles Garrett crashed, Jaden Clowney's out. Your defensive linemen are backups of backups. Secondary, there's some injuries. They need to get healthy. And, at this point, I don't know if they're going to survive enough for Deshaun Watson to come in for it to even matter. We feel good for them at least. Obviously you can take the public backlash and all that stuff as well. I don't know. Most people don't feel great about it, including myself. But the Browns season, if they keep playing like this, it's going to be over before he ever sees the field, because you can't beat the Jets, you can't beat the Falcons. You're going to have a tough sledding against some of the better teams in the NFL. Falcons, they're a gritty team. They'll fight to the last minute, and that's something you want from a team that's bad. You want to see effort. You look at the Lions last year and I guess this year. You want a team that is competitive. If you're a new head coach or somebody who's on a full-blown rebuild, you're not expecting to win every week, but you try to put a game plan together. You try to find a group of players that could become potential leaders for something greater down the road. And part of that is playing hard, whether you guys are going to win a Super Bowl or not. Because, that's what you go out there to do. Your goal is to win every game in the NFL. And if you aren't sitting there and you're not working towards the goal during the week, you'll never get any better. The team will continue to be a mediocrity the entire time.
Definitely agree with that, Cease. We'll see how these 2-2 teams do moving forward. One of the more exciting games of the whole weekend, the Seahawks and Lions. The Seahawks win this one 48-45. There was some back and forth all game long in terms of the offense and defenses. The offenses scoring points on each other's defenses. Jared Goff had a pretty good game. Rashad Penny had a good game for the Seahawks. Geno Smith had a good game. Just exactly what you want to see in a shootout. The Detroit Lions right now, they score the most points in the league. They give up the most points in the league. They're a fun team to watch. The Seahawks get the second win. Neither of these teams are going to be, competing for a playoff spot. I don't think maybe you think, Cease. I don't really think so, but it was just a fun game.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit, is definitely going on the hot seat here soon. Because, they fixed the offense. I'll give them that. You look at it right now, Jared Goff is, they're throwing for over 300 yards. They're scoring touchdowns. They've got some good receiving weapons. They've got a great running game, great offensive line, great tight end, T.J. Hockenson. There's a lot of things to love about this offense. With the defense, it just really isn't that good. There's just many holes in it now. They're holding for dear life every game. And it's a shame. You're in a shootout, you score 40-some points, you should win in the NFL. But, it's a work in progress. Dan Campbell's kind of held up his side of the things and gotten the offense in a much better place than what he inherited. The defense is still a work in progress. And, maybe people start getting more and more upset at the defensive coordinator. They need a scapegoat for why the Lions aren't immediately good. But a lot of this stuff takes time. And, it's not like they have world-renowned, personnel on the field each and every day for the Detroit Lions defense. So that's really kind of where they're at. This is still, nobody was predicting, playoff bound. They said if everything went right, maybe they have a shot at a wild dark horse for that. But, everything would have to, and, the defense is not. The offense cooperated, which is more than I would have thought under Jared Goff. I thought they would have struggled a little bit more. But ultimately, as well, the Seahawks, Pete Carroll knows how to play good football, just good, old-school, fundamental football. That's what he's good at doing. And against other teams that are going to try to just, do things more flashy or, just are on the same talent level, they're not going to be Pete Carroll because he's got these guys well coached to do the right thing and be in the right position. And ultimately, Geno Smith got a lot of yards, which makes you uncomfortable if you're a Detroit Lions fan. But ultimately, it was a good game against two mediocre teams with a lot of things they still need to improve.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the Titans and Colts. Cease, you mentioned that in this preview that whoever gets the lead first will probably win this game. They'll control the clock, run the ball, and get the win. The Titans did not run the ball as much as I would have thought as someone who has the lead because Derrick Henry only had 22 carries, but they got the win. They won 24-17. The Colts have some real issues in terms of their offensive line is kind of banged up. Their defense is banged up. Jonathan Taylor is now banged up. Not looking good for the Colts team that we thought could be pretty good this season. And the Titans, I mean, just stay the course with them, man. Mike Vrabel has some ups and has some downs, but he usually has them in the playoffs by the end of the year.
Yeah, and for the love of God, please use Derrick Henry more, especially in the second half when you're up by a decent amount. It just like it looked at times where they just refused to give him the ball and they just keep giving Ryan Tannehill opportunities to mess things up. Yeah, I get they don't want to be one dimensional, but come on. Like Derrick Henry was having a good game. He gets better as the game goes on a lot of times. So let him run, and stop trying to pretty much play cute with Ryan Tannehill out there because eventually it's going to go horribly wrong. He makes bad decisions. He doesn't take care of the football. He had one good year in Tennessee, but every other time, this last, playoffs last year, this year so far in the season, he doesn't take care of the football. He didn't in Miami either. So a lot of question marks there. Run the football. The Colts, I mean, they're in trouble, man. I mean, they got one win. They somehow beat the Chiefs, but a lot of things kind of had to bounce in their way in order for them to get that win at home. And, other than that, I mean, you got killed by the Jaguars. You tied the Houston Texans, who have yet to get a win. And now, you've lost to the Titans, who had a pretty dominant, showing altogether. I mean, it was close for a lot of it, but really the Titans were the only ones really possessing and controlling the ball. The Colts passing offense, I mean, they just need more options. I mean, you've got Alec Pierce is your second. He's a rookie that got drafted, I believe, in the second, third round this year. Outside of Michael Pittman, like that's what you have. I mean, you've got Mo Alley Cox as well as your tight end. I mean, that's nothing really far in the league. He's not really that much of a weapon. And now Jonathan Taylor went down. I mean, it's going to be hard for this team to really, as an offense, be able to take advantage of something the defense is keying in on because there's nothing really of that great value that they have to really check on. So a lot of, I'm hitting the panic button if you're the Colts, and right now it's Titans. It's a two-horse race in the AFC South between Titans and, I can't believe I say it, the Jaguars right now.
Who would have thought, buddy? Who would have thought?
I wouldn't have.
All right, a boring game real quick, Cease. The Giants beat the Bears 20-12. The Bears still can't pass. I think that's not all on Justin Fields. It's a lot on offensive line and wide receivers and play calling. And the Giants are better with Brian Daboll. Like I can't simplify this game anymore. Like that's just what happened.
No, absolutely. I mean, the Giants are just a better team right now. I wouldn't say roster-wise they're like way better, but they're better coached, and their quarterback can use his feet when he needs to, and is able to use his arm. Justin Fields is having some accuracy issues. He's just the passing is not very good. So only uses left to make a lot of plays, but an NFL game that's just not going to usually get you that far, and it showed.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Jaguars and Eagles. This was one that was one of the more highly anticipated matchups of the weekend, and it was good. I mean, the Eagles won 29-21. It was kind of a different type of matchup because it was a lot of rain. It changed kind of the outcome here. The Eagles were able to come back after a Jaguars 14-0 start and get this win. The big difference maker here, I think, is that the Eagles protected the ball a lot better than the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence turned over the ball 5 times. 1 interception, 4 fumbles. Not used to playing in that rainy weather. He's going to have to get used to it at some point. But the Eagles are 4-0, and I do think they're a much better team than the Jaguars this season. We'll see if that holds up, but I do still think they're one of the better teams in the NFL, and the Jaguars aren't quite there.
Right, and I don't think you can look at this game and go, well, the Jaguars and Eagles are the same level of team. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a rain game, like you said. It's just a messy game. The 49ers lost to the Bears week 1. Another really messy, worse rainstorm than this. So once that weather starts coming in, I mean, you can't move the ball in the air as much. There's wind swirling around. The ball is very wet, prone to drops, turnovers as a quarterback. So there's going to be a lot more emphasis on running the ball. Jacksonville has kind of running game tandem with Travis and James Robinson. And that's really what it came down to is Trevor Lawrence also made some huge mistakes throwing the ball in the air, and the Eagles were able to capitalize, and that's really what was the big difference in this game. So you go out in this in normal weather, I think the Eagles would have won by a touchdown. It really wouldn't have been that close because, despite all those things the Eagles did wrong and the Jaguars were capitalizing, Trevor Lawrence just couldn't close out the game. It shows just the talent level. In the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes of a game, you can really tell if it's close, which teams are really good in this league and which aren't, because the good ones can really flip the script and score when they need to versus struggling, punting the ball, and pretty much having to hope for a miracle to get the ball back at the end of the game to try to tie it up. So good for the Eagles. Another win. They remain undefeated. I don't think the Jaguars, should hang their hat or hang their heads by any means. It's a really good team that has Super Bowl potential within them right now, if you look at the NFC field. So Jaguars, hopefully they a little bit from this division. And, this team is only going to get better over the next year or two. But, yeah, the Eagles are here to stay.
All right, well, yeah, the Eagles get the win here. Moving on, the Jets beat the Steelers 24-20. The Jets got off to an early lead. The Steelers were not getting much done offensively, so they put in Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett goes 10 of 13. The 3 incompletions were interceptions. He never let a pass hit the ground. That's hard to do. But he did have 2 rushing touchdowns, so it did bring some life to the offense, and he is the starter moving forward. Overall, though, I think the Jets are hoping that Zach Wilson can help them make a push towards the playoffs. This is a big road win. Even if it's not the same old Steelers, they're still a tough team. And the Steelers are just hoping that Kenny Pickett can be the guy. So they're going to give him the rest of the season and just see what he does.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, Kenny Pickett is going to do better than Mitch Trubisky. Or at the very least, it's not going to be as static. He's going to have some really good moments, some really bad moments probably. But, I mean, you draft this guy in the first round, you got to be willing to use him. It's not, like you said last week, he's not a young quarterback. He's not a young prospect. He's probably 24, 25 years old possibly. He transferred, all those different things you can use to use your college eligibility, whole allotment of it. So there's no reason for this guy not to be able to come in and start playing pretty quickly. Mike Tomlin, hats off to him for kind of making that call there to see, Mitch Trubisky's just not going to give us the spark we need to win some games. The Jets aren't a crazy good team, crazy good defense by any means. So it's as good as time as any to really get your quarterback, rookie quarterbacks, and see what happens. And it kind of almost paid off for him. Obviously, the Jets had a really good drive, game-winning drive led by Zach Wilson, so that's good for them to see that their very high top 5 draft pick of a quarterback isn't a complete bust by any means. He does have potential, the same things we saw, when he got out of college. So that whole scouting report is pretty much still true. I don't think really anything when it comes to strengths and weaknesses has really changed with him. I don't think he's really improved his game, but then he's also been hurt as well. So it's hard to really justify or judge that. So, I mean, the Jets, though, game-winning drive at the end. It was good to see, Breece Hall get involved as well for the Jets a lot. And, they did exactly what they needed to win this game, and especially a tough one on the road in Pittsburgh. So good for them.
Absolutely. Next game, the Ravens end up losing to the Bills 23-20. They start off the game hot. They, score 20 points by the halftime. They're ready to go, and then they take their foot off the gas. And it was another one of those rain games, too, so you have like a little bit of an excuse. But overall, the Ravens probably should have won this game after they were up. They end up losing. Tyler Bass hits a game-winning field goal for the Bills. Both offenses kind of looked ugly because of the weather. I'm not going to put anything like that on either quarterback or anything. Would have liked the Ravens to be a little bit more aggressive. But the Ravens have trailed 12 seconds this whole season, and they are 2-2. It just shows you how tough it is and how your defense has to stay engaged at all times, even if your offense isn't moving the ball.
No, absolutely. And I mean, let's be honest. Ravens blew these games between Miami game the week before that, or 2 weeks before. I mean, they just straight up did not play well. I mean, they're up by a good amount in each of these games, and they let it slowly drift away. A lot of it's just on big plays, things of that nature. I mean, you look at that Dolphins game. To this moment, I'm still upset. I mean, I like the Ravens. I hope they lose because that means the Bengals are better off for the division crown. But I mean, man, you look at the Dolphins game. They let Tyreek Hill bust a big play when they're up by 2 touchdowns, and that was basically the only way for the Dolphins to get back in it, and they just let it happen. I get he's a great athlete, but ultimately, double cover him. Do not let him make that play. Like that's the whole point of these cover two shells that people are seeing against a lot of these deep passing, big play offenses. Is sure you're giving up some stuff underneath, but they only have so much time. So giving up the big, fast, quick, big isn't going to work for you. So you got to be smart about how you do it. The Ravens secondary, for as much as they're getting paid, has struggled at times, especially when they need to close the game out. Same thing with the Bills this week. A lot of advantages, and they just let it slip away until it's a one possession game. And once that happens in the fourth quarter, it can really, especially two good offenses, it comes down to whoever has the time left on the clock. I mean, look at the Bills Chiefs game last year in the playoffs. So, I mean, good for the Bills. You get another win, coming off a really tough loss in Miami. But the Ravens, I mean, they got to figure some stuff out on the defense if they really want to have a shot at winning the AFC or making any noise in the AFC playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see these two teams match up, but I'm with you. The Ravens need to figure out that secondary specifically if they're going to do anything. And the Bills just got to stay healthy, too. I mean, there's been a lot of injuries. Jordan Poyer's come up big for them, a lot of interceptions. I think he's on pace for 17 this year. The Chargers beat the Texans Seas 34-24. The Texans are now the only winless team in the NFL, 0-3-1 after that tie with the Colts. Not the best game for the Chargers, but they're just chugging along with all the injuries they have. That every win matters. Get the win, get the 500, and see if you can heal up at least some of the guys. But not too much more to add to this one. The Chargers are a much better team than the Texans.
They are, but they let them back in the game in the fourth quarter. Again, no business being there. They let Dameon Pierce get a 90-some yard touchdown. You can't give up big that in games, especially on the road. You're going to lose them a lot of times because you're going to lose all the momentum. Everything you worked on the game goes down the toilet midway through the second half because someone just couldn't make a tackle or be smart and eliminate that big play. So Chargers are much better. They should still be in a good spot to make the playoffs, but they need to get healthier soon, and they got to play better than they did in this game by a large margin to really compete for any kind of Super Bowl aspirations that some have them pegged for.
Yeah, we're going to see what the injuries come back with them. I know they have some guys out for season, but see if some guys coming back can really energize their team. Keenan Allen, still questionable for this week. He's going to be questionable for a little bit. It's a hamstring issue, so maybe he can help get them back on track. See, the game we were kind of surprised about the line was the Cardinals were 2-point underdogs on the road against the Carolina Panthers. They win 26-16. This was a very boring game. The Cardinals had to come back in the end, but there's not a lot of offense. It's kind of the MO with Matt Rule Carolina Panthers games. And he's likely getting the axe pretty soon now because you got to win some games like this at home if you want to keep your job, if you've been on the hot seat for a while. The Cardinals getting the win is important because they have not looked good this year at all.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Matt Rule should be gone here in the next week. It's just that simple. Like you said, you can't lose games like this against, opponents where it is winnable. This is probably the game that Vegas lost a lot of money on. I mean, I bet you anything. Because, I mean, you look at a 2-point spread, in favor of the Carolina Panthers. I know it's at home, so it basically amounts to a pick 'em when it's only 2 points. But, I mean, you just look at the eye test, and you look at these teams. Sure, the Cardinals are a mess compared to years past, but they still have a good quarterback. They still have good offensive weapons and some good pieces on defense. So, it was a disrespectful line. Like we said on last week's podcast, hammer it if you can. And, we were right. It was easy money, and ultimately, the Cardinals prevail over a worse team.
That's all they needed to do. They got the win, got the job done. Next game for us, the Green Bay Packers beat the Patriots 27-24. The game was closer than we thought. Aaron Rodgers is still not as sharp as he should be, maybe with some of these young wide receivers. And the Patriots, they're on Brian Hoyer in this game. He goes down with a concussion. So Bailey Zappi, the record-setting quarterback from Western Kentucky as a rookie this year, comes in and I think the Patriots actually could have won this game, but Bill Belichick was not going to trust him to throw the ball around. I would have risked it. I would have let him throw the ball a little bit, especially in overtime. You get a chance to get the ball. Go try to let your guy win the game. I know it's tough for Bill Belichick to not to trust a quarterback. It takes a lot to earn that trust, but I'm more, I guess, the Patriots. I was never as high on, so I'm actually more concerned with the Packers here. This is a team on their third-string quarterback on a rookie. You got to put this game away in regulation. You got to win by at least 2 touchdowns for me to feel comfortable about you being Super Bowl champs. And Cecil, that's why me and you have kind of faded them this year in terms of the long-term projections for this team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the point spread going in this game was, I believe, 10 and a half points. Mm-hmm. Brian Hoyer was starting, then Brian Hoyer gets knocked out in the first quarter, and Billy Zappi starts. Yeah, I mean, with Bill Belichick, he's not really one to be overly aggressive with offensive play calling. That's just not his style. He believes in his defense. He believes in, good kind of hard-nosed football, kicking, controlling the bucket a lot of times. And, that's what that's the game plan he had with Brian Hoyer, who's probably less youthful step as much as a league a while now. But and the Patriots defense played decently well, but better than they have recently. But a lot of this game, it all reflects on the Packers. I mean, they almost lost to a third-string quarterback on a team that already, Mac Jones isn't that great of a quarterback to begin with. They don't really have any wide receiver or weapons. The running backs are good, not amazing. And then, they've got a lot of pieces on defense, but it's not the defense it used to be. So, if you're the Packers fan right now, you're enjoy the win, but you're concerned. You're concerned why this team is – Aaron Rodgers looks completely out of sync with everybody. He gets so much of the time. He look like Tom Brady every time he sees a Microsoft tablet. And ultimately, the good thing about this is that Romeo Doubs and him somewhat of a rapport as well. That's going to be very important as this season progresses, that Aaron Rodgers gets one with him and everyone there. That way, they have an actual offense when it comes to playoff time, because this stuff is just not going to cut it when it comes to, card around the NFL playoffs.
Definitely not going to cut it. And again, for everyone, questioning about the Packers, they haven't looked good at all this year. So, 3-1 record is a little bit. I would say it's fortuitous for them right now, and they play up and down to the level of their competition. So we'll see if that comes to bite them in the butt, because usually it does. 2 teams that have not played well themselves this year. The Broncos go to Las Vegas, take on the Raiders. The Raiders win 32-23. Another game that just was not the greatest game played by either team. Josh Jacobs had a good day for the Raiders, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams had 101 yards. They get their first win of the season, which is important. The Broncos look totally out of sync. Javonte Williams goes out for the season with the torn ACL. Melvin Gordon has fumble issues. Nathaniel Hackett's having in-game decisions criticized because, well, quite frankly, a lot of his in-game decisions have not been good. There's a lot wrong with the Broncos. The Raiders, it's good to get a win, but you're still climbing so far uphill in that AFC West this year.
I definitely dug themselves quite the hole at this point. It's good for them to get their first win. It always feels good, and sometimes you get that first win, the others start rolling through. Because, you start to build in your own head, you're 0-1, 0-2, 0-3. You think maybe we're going to lose 4 in a row, 5 in a row. We're not going to win a lot of games. Josh Jacobs was on fire in this game. Devontae Adams got involved in a lot of different schemes as well. So, there were a lot of games for offense. And, defense, they did what they needed to do. I wouldn't say they were great against the Broncos. The Broncos just – offense looks so in disarray. Confusing. They only seem to really put it together at, drives at the end of the half and deals like that still. So there's a lot to be concerned about with this team. I know they were going in that game 2-1. They didn't really feel like the other 2-1 teams out there. not going to make the playoffs, and Russell Wilson has looked like a shell of himself. He looked better than the week before, but he's still not looking very good at all.
Yeah, they need to get the quarterback they paid him to be if they're going to do anything this year, and it's not looking good so far. We'll see if they can get back on track here soon. The Sunday night game was another one we mentioned as just an interesting line from Vegas. The Chiefs were favored on the road, and they did cover. They won 41-31. They look absolutely fantastic. They're running the ball well. They're switching up Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco now, the rookie. Just seems to give their offense a little bit extra juice. And Patrick Mahomes is finding guys in the end zone, making highlight plays against what is a very good Bucs defense most times. The Buccaneers still just look really, really sloppy. I'm not going to blame it on Tom Brady's divorce, but that probably has something to do with Tom Brady's lackluster play so far. He'll get back on track. He's the greatest of all time for a reason, but there's a lot going wrong in Tampa Bay. And again, Cease, you had mentioned specifically that this is a team that you don't want to pick to win the Super Bowl because they haven't looked good, and they're kind of getting to that point where a lot of the players are aging.
You and I both talked about it. We faded, the Bucs. We faded the Packers this year because, a lot of the odds machines were saying, they had the best chance to go into the Super Bowl from the NFC. And a lot of that came off a bias of previous years with a lot of, there's a lot of new factors this year. These aren't, this isn't like the Bucs that won the Super Bowl and then next year came in. They lost a lot of people. Ryan Jensen is hurt. Tom Brady is another year old and took off half the offseason and decide I want to play football again. It seems like there's a lot more distractions this time. Things are just not in sync with the receivers. There's a lot of things going wrong on a team like this, which is very surprising considering, the goals they have for themselves. I mean, the Chiefs, they're fun to play. I mean, I don't know if they're necessarily the best team in the NFL, but they're one of the most fun to watch just because of the stuff Pat Mahomes is able to do. Josh Allen is great. He can move well, and, he can score a lot of points as well. But it's just the way Pat Mahomes does it with this kind of backyard baseball style that's just fun to watch. And, at the end of the day, it's good to see him get Clyde Edwards-Helaire and, the new rookie running back involved much more as well. So the defense also played well. And really, this game was handily the Chiefs the whole way, except for a couple big plays from Tom Brady and Mike Evans in the second half. So Chiefs are in a good spot. They still aren't the favorite, but they're definitely one of the probably top 3 teams you think are going to make it to the Super Bowl in the NFL out of the AFC without a doubt. So good for them. Way to get the win and, kind of put the skeleton in the closet of losing to Tom Brady in Tampa for the Super Bowl to bed a little for them.
Yeah, and let's just get right into the Monday night game, Steve, because we got some teams, another team that's not playing well. I don't think we said specifically to fade this team, but the Rams lose to the 49ers. They lose 24-9. Good for the 49ers getting the win. They do what they do. Their defense is specifically very, very good. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do what he usually does and probably get the team to the playoffs, at least the divisional round. The Rams look really bad. Matt Stafford doesn't look the same. His arm injury might be affecting him. He only throws to Cooper Kupp. He only looks in Cooper Kupp's direction. It makes their offense very one-dimensional when they're passing. Guys like Allen Robinson are getting open. He's just not looking at them. It's getting to the point where my hand's on the panic button. Like, it's not like, hey, they might miss the playoffs. I still think they will probably have a good shot at making the playoffs. But overall, I think it's a panic button of like, hey, we won the Super Bowl last year. This is not the same team. We're probably not winning this year at this rate because it looks bad.
Yeah, I mean, they look like a shell of a team that won the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, a lot of things have changed. They had a lot of people leave. They have Von Miller. OBJ tore his ACL, and they haven't re-signed him yet. So, I mean, there's multiple people that were there. They pretty much took a lot of draft picks, shipped them off to get some of these top-end players who are on teams disgruntled or just wanted to play for a winner. And a lot of those guys then left. So, a lot of question marks, a lot of things the Rams need to figure out, and they need to figure out in a hurry. I mean, 49ers still look great. Their defense is no joke. I mean, it's been great for years, but, it seems to be about that level it was when they made the Super Bowl again. Because the biggest problem since the last 2 years since that point has been their secondary has not been very good. They have a new safety there. And then, Gibson is filling in well for Jimmy Ward, but this defense doesn't even have Jimmy Ward yet. It has two safeties playing at a pretty good high level, but you put Jimmy Ward in there, an all pro level safety, that's going to make this even more dangerous of a defense. So I'm excited, about the 49ers, especially after the clunker they put on with the Broncos. It's good to see them get back on track. I mean, at this point, we just know the offense is not going to be what wins them a game, but their defense is good enough to almost win it on its own.
I would agree with that. It might be defense coming back in the NFL, making it cool in the NFL these days, Cease. We'll have to see about that. Those are the recaps for this week. We're going to get into our picks for this week. And Cease, we're going to start it off with the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos, the game of the horses here. This is a Broncos home game. They are favored by 3.5, depending on the sports book. And I think the big news here is that Javonte Williams is out for the Broncos and Jonathan Taylor is out for the Colts. More minor injury for Jonathan Taylor. It's just an ankle sprain, but it's a short week, so it's hard to play through. And then Shaq Leonard is also out for the Colts, too.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Broncos. Their offense doesn't look great by any means, but there's still a lot of things to improve as well. But if you're the Colts, I mean, again, no Shaq Leonard. That's huge. The offense is struggling. No Jonathan Taylor. But the offense, I'm going to say, could be one-dimensional, but I don't even think it's that. Could do one thing decently well, and they can't really do either, and the defense is banged up as well. So as anemic and bad that the Broncos look at times, I think they should be enough to beat the Colts. And if you think about it, I mean, Broncos are full-grown horses. Colts are baby horses, baby male horses. So you got to go with the fully grown adults because the Colts still have a lot they need to learn.
Yeah, I think if it's anyone else, I'm probably going against the Broncos here. But the Colts, with their injuries and how they've looked this season, I will take my chances and go with the Broncos. Like a home field advantage, they got a short week. They know this is a game they have to win. I guess the Colts do too, but just have less firepower with everything going on. So Broncos to win and cover at home. We have another England game here this week, Cecil. We have the Giants against the Packers. The line is 7 points in favor of the Packers right now. Daniel Jones has a sprained ankle. We don't know if he's going to play. Tyrod Taylor has a concussion. We don't know if he's going to play for the Giants. That might leave Davis Webb starting, so everyone needs to check their injury report before they make any bets or do any fantasy rosters this weekend. But currently, Packers favored by 7.
Yeah, Packers should win and cover this one if Davis Webb is starting, which I think is what's going to happen. At that point, they just should key on Saquon Barkley, which they've done a really good job against the run for the most part. And again, Aaron Rodgers should start getting this thing back on track because each and every week he's going to build a little more rapport with these guys, and he knows they have to get better. And I mean, that's all they're going to be practicing all week is getting that flow, that release point, everything and timing right with Aaron Rodgers. So I think the Packers come out, and because it's a backup and New York's roster isn't that amazing, I'm gonna go with the Packers to win and cover.
Yeah, I am too. This is a game they should win and cover. We'll see. This could be the first step to getting back to that point where maybe we can trust them long term. Aaron Rodgers needs to have a good game. I think he will love to put on a show in London. I think he's starting to trust some of his young receivers, Romeo Doubs in particular, and I think they're going to win and cover on the road, in London. All right, Sunday afternoon, we got the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 9 points.
Give me Buccaneers to win, but the Falcons with the points. The Bucs look off right now, to be honest with you. The Falcons are going to play hard, and I think the 9 points is just too rich a spread for me with the way the Bucs have been performing at times. I think A.J. Terrell is going to do a good job of guarding, Mike Evans. I think that's going to be a huge matchup for them. And it's one of the strengths of the Falcons is A.J. Terrell, one of the better young corners in the NFL. So I could lead to some problems for them, and Marcus Mariota is going to make some mistakes, but 9 points is just too high for a team that's been underperforming at this level.
Yeah, this is what the book says to me. Like, it's Bucks win, Falcons with the points here. Falcons are a gritty team, and until maybe they have some injuries pile up, I will take the points if they're given to me. But see, the only thing I'm afraid about with this pick is the Bucks haven't looked good, but now the divorce lawyers are coming in. Does Tom Brady just go fucking nuclear on everyone and just have the greatest season of all time now? Because he's married to the game now. He has no wife. He has the kids are there, but he's not taking care of them. That's what my concern is with my bet here.
He is nothing but the game. It's all he has left. It's a great question. Will Tom have even more time? I mean, it's a distraction. Let's be honest. A divorce doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's definitely in the back of his mind. It's going to be a big thing, media attention wise. Like he doesn't want any of that. It will be a distraction. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. I mean, you never know with Tom Brady. He could just be upset. Also, I'm saying is he probably has called Microsoft, ordered an entire truckload of those tablets, service. He probably his room, watches tape, and just smashes them on the side after every film session. He probably goes through 50 to 100 of them a week. I bet.
Oh yeah, I bet he's going to. He's gonna have to find a way to take out some frustration. But I'm a little concerned with this bet. I mean, everything leading up to this says take the Falcons with the points, but that is my one little. I could see him just coming out and just going. I don't know, going nuts. Next game up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. The Titans are favored by 2.5 points.
Titans to win and cover here. Commanders and Carson Wentz are so up and down. He's going to throw a couple interceptions and just give the ball to Derrick Henry. Please take the win out of Ryan Tannehill's sails and only use a couple passes it, and just feed it to Derrick Henry unless you're down. There's no reason to be playing the way they are on the offense. And if you don't want Derrick Henry, he's got a backup running back you can put in there if you're afraid of him getting hurt. He's done well in limited relief as well.
Yeah, I'm going Titans to win and cover 2. Washington looks really bad. The Titans, winning on the road, I think is possible. And yes, the points kind of scare me because they're a team that will grind out games and maybe win by a field goal. That's all they need to cover this one, though. You're right. Feed the ball to Derrick Henry. Let's let Ryan Tannehill know that he is a game manager, and that's fine. That's all good and fine, but he is a game manager. Interestingly enough, the Colts had mentioned that, it's really cool that the Titans have Ryan Tannehill because they change quarterbacks every year, and it takes some time to getting used to, whereas the Titans just have the same guy every year, and he's doing okay. Interesting that the Colts would maybe compliment the Titans like that. But, yes, give the ball to Derrick Henry. You can win and cover against the Commanders on the road, especially the way
What
the
kind of
Commanders
mind game are the Colts playing?
I don't know. I
love it. I mean, it's so nice to have Ryan Tannehill, a middling quarterback, every year.
I think they're just like, if you're going to have a middling quarterback, at least you could have the same middling quarterback every single year. I don't know.
That's like being like, wow, the Bengals sure are lucky to have Andy Dalton every year to lose the first round of playoffs.
Yeah. It's painful. All right, let's go to the next one, Cease. We have the Seattle Seahawks at the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are favored by 6 points in this one. There's still a lot of injury news to come out with the Saints as things currently sit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in flux with the Saints. What's the spread on this game? Have they announced one with all the injuries?
Yeah, I believe it's 6. At least the last one I saw was 6 to the Saints.
Saints minus 6. It's in Seattle.
It's moved down to 5 now.
Okay. So -5 Seattle. If it's 5, I mean, the Saints have not looked great, especially with a lot of the injuries they have. Falcons are scoring a lot of points, but they can't play defense. I'm gonna pick the Saints to win, but I'm gonna pick the Seahawks to cover because it's in Seattle, and it's a bigger spread.
So this one's in New Orleans.
Oh, it's in New Orleans, and give me the Saints all the way, winning cover.
All right, I'm going the Saints to win, but I'm going the Seahawks with the points. They're on fire. I love the way they're playing. Geno Smith's having a great season. I think they can keep this thing going. With the Saints' injuries, I think they keep it close. Chicago Bears at Minnesota Vikings. Rivalry game here. The Vikings are favored by 7 points.
Excuse me. Yeah, give me the Vikings to win. I think they're going to run all over them. I think they're going to be able to pass. And you know what? I'm going to give them the points, too. I think they're going to run over the Bears. So I don't think it's going to necessarily be close. The Bears do not have a passing attack right now. And I mean, the Vikings are just gonna stuff up the run, and Justin Fields is gonna make some mistakes, and the Vikings will capitalize. So I don't think this is gonna be particularly close. So Vikings to win and cover.
Same here. Like I said, I liked Kevin O'Connell as a coach. I think he's going to do a fantastic job this season. They're already 3-1. Just stop the run, and you can win this game. That's all it takes. And even if you don't stop the run, your offense is way better than theirs, so they can win and cover at home. Detroit Lions at the New England Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 3 points. As we mentioned, Mac Jones is likely not playing. We don't know if Brian Hoyer will be available. It probably means Bailey Zappi will be playing at quarterback again. This is the Matt Patricia revenge game, Cease.
It is a revenge game. We always need to acknowledge our revenge games, but he's not going to get it, because Dan Campbell and company is going to win. Give me the Lions with the upset. I think they just are better. I think they are a better team roster-wise. I think they got a much more explosive offense, and the Patriots won't be able to keep up.
I've got the same pick. I'm going Lions with the upset. I really believe in their offense, obviously. And if Bill Belichick is not going to trust his backup quarterback to throw the ball, then they're not going to be able to take advantage of the fact that the Lions have the worst defense in the league right now. So give me the Lions with the upset. Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars favored by 7.5.
Yeah, that's fair. Give me the Jaguars to win. 1.5 points is hard, but it is the Texans. So I'm going to go. I mean, the Jaguars have been playing pretty good as of late. The Chargers for a second almost blew it against Houston, but they were able to pull ahead again. So give me the Jags to win and win big. There's nothing from the Texans I've seen that shows that they are going to be close in this game. And to be honest, bad teams that keep losing, it gets harder and harder for their players to keep giving such max effort when they still can't get any W's on the board. So that could start affecting them as well when you're winless, you're 0-3-1 at this point in the season. So be on the lookout for that. The Jaguars, they got too many weapons right now. And to say, a rivalry game that's outside a touchdown is always questionable, but I mean, there's just nothing on the Texans that scares me by any means that says Jacksonville's not going to get the job done.
Yeah, weather's supposed to be nice, so I don't have to worry about Trevor Lawrence turnovers. He's struggled with that. So I'm going Jaguars to win and cover 2. They have some talent on their roster. They've proven that through the first 4 weeks. I think they might be a little bit overhyped right now. That remains to be seen. They're playing the Texans. They'll win and cover. The Miami Dolphins are favored by 3 points at the New York Jets.
And it's going to be Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater starting at the Jets. Give me the Dolphins to win, but I'm going to take the Jets with the points. Just because I don't know how good Teddy Bridgewater is going to do. I think he's still serviceable enough where, I mean, he could start this pinch. I'm not really that worried about him being a very good backup. Could have had opportunities to start, but things just have not gone his way. So I'm okay with Teddy Bridgewater rolling with the Dolphins. They still got a pretty good defense. They got Tyreek Hill, and he was able to get to the ball to him, and Mike McDaniels was able to scheme very well. So give me them to win. But it's a hard place to play to go over to, the new Meadowlands, go over to MetLife and play the Jets. I mean, it's a vicious kind of crowd. And ultimately, I mean, the Jets, they come off that win again with Zach Wilson. I think they're trying to find their identity. I think they're doing a little bit better and stepping up there. And I think they're going to give the Dolphins a good run for their money with their backup quarterback starting.
All right, I'm going Dolphins to win and cover this one. As you mentioned, I really like their defense. I think Teddy Bridgewater could start for a lot of teams in this league. I mean, at least 5 or 6. And all he's got to do is just get the ball to his playmakers. If he does that, he can get the win here, get this cover. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are favored by 14 points, which is, I think, the biggest line we've seen all season so far.
14 points. Jeez. Mm-hmm. Give me the Bills to win. Give me the Steelers the points. They're going to have Kenny Pickett starting. There's not going to be a ton of tape on him. I mean, it's just so wild. 14 points is just a lot. Steelers still have a lot of good players on defense. If anything, they're going to have a quick game plan where the Bills can't capitalize and run the score up. So I am going to give the Steelers the point. If you give me 14 points, I got to take the under on this one. Absolutely destruction. The Steelers have too good of defense for that to happen like that.
Yeah, same pick here. The Steelers are always going to be that feisty team that keeps things close. The Bills are a very good team. I could see them covering this, but the smart play here is to go with Steelers with the points. So Bills to win, Steelers with the points. The last of the 1 o'clock games for Sunday sees the Los Angeles Chargers are favored by 3 points at the Cleveland Browns.
Give me the Chargers to win and cover. I know they got some injuries, but so does Cleveland. They're banged up, and I just there's something about Cleveland this year has not been good. It's Joey. You got Jacoby Brissett. You got Justin Herbert on the other side. I'm going to take the elite quarterback and the Chargers every time, despite their injuries, especially with only 3 points. So Chargers win and cover.
I agree. Chargers win and cover. Chargers are a more talented team, even with the injuries. And the Browns are having coaching issues, whether they're blaming the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, the head coach. Everyone wants their coaching staff fired after a 2-2 start. It just seems like a lot of turmoil. I'm going Chargers to win and cover.
Because why would the Browns want to keep things consistent,
Oh, yeah, just change it up. All right, San Francisco 49ers are favored by 4.5 points at the Carolina Panthers, Cease.
Yep. Give me that one all day. I think the Panthers are going to be able to score almost next to nothing. They're not going to get really a touchdown in this game, and I think the offense for the 49ers will play the run-heavy control offense with Jimmy Garoppolo making some key throws at times, and they should be able to win by at least a touchdown.
I agree. 49ers to win and cover. They're a much better team than the Panthers. I do think the Panthers' bad news is coming in. Like, Matt Rule is going to get fired, and there's already receivers complaining about Baker Mayfield. It just doesn't get better at this point. It mostly gets worse. Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are favored by 4 points.
Give me the Cowboys right now. I mean, the Cowboys defense is playing at the same level the 49ers is. And, their offense is on the same level. So, I mean, obviously they got to go out to L.A. From Texas. That's not as big a drive. But, I'm trusting the Cowboys right now, and I'm pretty low on the Rams. So, give me the Cowboys in the upset.
Same pick here, Cease. Great minds think alike here. I think the defense is great. They have a lot of the Cowboys have some holes too, but the Rams' holes seem like they're bigger. Like their problems are, how do we get anyone outside of Cooper Kupp involved in the offense? How do we block for Matthew Stafford so he's not running for his life? How do we get the defense playing better? Like Jalen Ramsey's not tackling Deebo Samuel. There's a lot of things to answer. For the Cowboys, yeah, it's kind of the same old, same old. How do we get the running game going and all that? But the defense has been elite, and I will say this again. I think I've said it on Twitter. It isn't going to be too long before we're talking about Micah Parsons being the best player in the league. He's been that good. Even he's getting double teamed, triple teamed. He's doing very well. Just excellent player. I think the Cowboys can win this one outright. All right, Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. We have Jalen Hurts versus Kyler Murray. Remember, Jalen Hurts took over for Kyler Murray after he went pro.
What's the spread?
5.5 for the Eagles.
Give me the Eagles to win. 5.5 points in Arizona. I'm going to go. Give me Cardinals with the points. I think, you got to go out to Arizona to the desert. It's a different feel. And, I think, Kyler Murray and that team, they're mobile enough to, come alive in the second half and, closer during garbage time ultimately. So that's the reason I'm picking them, is because I think just once the game's in hand, they will suddenly start scoring some points, which they've done in the past to mess some people up. So give me the Cardinals with the points and the Eagles to win outright.
I'm going Eagles to win and cover. I think they are just a much more better team. The Cardinals seem to have some frustrations boiling over. Kyler Murray yelling at Cliff Kingsbury, and some of that happens, but it just seems like there's a whole mess with like the whole contract situation too. J.J. Watt did play this weekend after getting his heart shocked back into rhythm. There's a lot going on with this team. I think the Eagles are the safer pick here. All right, Sunday Night Football. See, Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens favored by 3.
Yeah, let's go. I'm going Bengals. Let's go. Let's go with the upset. Shock the Ravens at home. Here's the things I've been talking about with the Ravens so far. One, secondary is overrated as of right now. You look into this season's, they're giving up a lot of plays to a lot of receivers. And there's one thing the Bengals do well, and something I saw finally out in the Dolphins game. They can make big plays in the passing game. Joe Burrow is going to do that. I think Joe Burrow is ready to play and wants to show him what he's got because he had such success last time. On the other hand, I think the Ravens are trying to, obviously what happened last year. They're never they're going to come out to 3 points as a home favorite. It's really kind of a toss-up pick 'em to me. So ultimately, I got to go with my Bengals because I think they played well on Thursday night. I think the Ravens keep coming off close losses and they can't close out games, which is something the Bengals and Joe Burrow are really good at doing.
I'm going Ravens to win and cover this one. Pains me to say it, but I think the Bengals still haven't proven they can beat cover 2 zone. Jets and Dolphins did not run a lot of it. And I think the Ravens, their team is good. They want this game, I think, more than the Bengals do. They had both blowouts last year, so I mean, I think they're gonna be ready for it. This one's at home. I think they get this one. The Bengals will return the favor when they come to Cincinnati, but I had them splitting these games. I'm gonna stick with that. All right, Monday Night Football. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 7 points.
Yeah, give me Kansas City a winning. I just don't think the Raiders' offense is going to be able to keep up. It's just that simple. The best part of their offense seems to be the running game with Josh Jacobs after last season. So I got to give it to Pat Mahomes and the Mahomettes, as I'm going to start calling them, because none of them are really that great. Without Tyreek Hill, I mean, you got Travis Kelce, I guess. He's like his Scottie Pippen, and then you got everybody else. So, yeah, give me the Chiefs to win and cover in this one.
I got the same pick. I like the nickname the Homettes. I do like that.
Homettes.
I think the Raiders can maybe backdoor cover this one, very last seconds, but the Chiefs are the better team, and there's no way that they do not win this game at home, Arrowhead. It would take a lot for the Raiders to win this one. All right, Cease, any final thoughts for the week?
Let's go Bengals. Let's win the North this weekend. How about that?
Absolutely. We'll be partying hard from 9 a.m. all the way through the night, watching some NFL football. This weekend's going to be really great. I got to remind everyone to make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there. Like the podcast if you're listening on any of the podcast platforms. Subscribe there, rate it, do whatever you got to do. Help us out there. Thanks for listening. We'll see everyone next week.